Hello, storytellers. My name is Trinity Antoinette, and welcome to the Antoinette Test. I'm a writer, storyteller, and a communication scholar, and I recognize and research the relationship between how stories are told and how they impact how we view ourselves, how we view other people, and our relationships, behaviors, and beliefs and perspectives. Film and TV has always had the influence to impact how we perceive different groups of people. I specifically study this and how others perceive Black women and how it impacts them in society. In Hollywood, we have a problem. Somehow, even with the demand for more diversity in the industry, accurate representation for Black women is missing the mark by huge margins. And even with the best intentions, this impact can be detrimental to Black women, harmful to Black women, and at the very least, it can get in the way of making a good story great. This inspired me to create the Antoinette Test, a media test crafted to measure the mindfulness of creating Black women characters in storytelling media. This is not by any means the first media test geared towards diversity, and it definitely should not be the last. Some of my inspiration comes from the Bechdel-Wallace test by Alison Bechdel-Wallace and the Kent test by Clarkeisha Kent. With those in mind, I'm offering even more nuanced criteria to address a nuanced issue. Before I get into the criteria of this test, let's address the elephant in the room. Why Black women specifically? Stereotypes of Black women created during the transatlantic slave trade are still alive and well to this day. Stereotypes such as the Jezebel, the Mammy, the Sapphire, and most recently, the strong Black woman paint us as hypersexual, aggressive, invulnerable, and solely at the service of others. These stereotypes influence the perception of Black women in society, and they have very damaging effects on our physical, mental, emotional, and sexual safety and well being. As storytellers, if we are not intentional and mindful about writing Black women characters as multifaceted, we end up perpetuating these stereotypes. The Antoinette test digs deeper to unearth more practical and specific tactics to avoid these stereotypes. Okay, so let's get into the criteria of the Antoinette test. Point A, must have responsible elements of intersectionality on the subject of social issues. While it is recommended that storytellers tell stories that do not solely center social issues that Black women face, it is understandable that some stories about those issues are absolutely necessary to tell. The key is to depict those elements responsibly, which include accurately depicting the character's intersection of Blackness and womanhood, along with any other intersection of marginalized experiences, and not anchoring those experiences as the character's identity. Do not let the stories of strife and trauma be the only stories of Black women that you tell. When you are writing Black women characters, explore the full human experience of the character. Get to know their unique personalities, their idiosyncrasies, their strengths, limitations, their human tendencies, their hopes, dreams, and desires, and let any depiction of social issues be a disruption to the person that the audience has gotten to know. Point B, must have proper elements of desirability and affection as a love interest. The character must not be over-sexualized when depicted as desirable or desexualized when highlighting other characteristics. The character must not have to perform or prove her worthiness of a love interest or endure hardship, humiliation, or struggle love as a precedent to receiving proper affection or treatment from her love interest. Point C, must not endure sexual violence in a careless manner by the storyteller. There should be careful consideration by the storyteller of how and why an element of sexual violence is necessary to the character's story. To tell this story responsibly includes depicting the very real and traumatic aftermath of the violation. The depicted sexual violence must not be predicated on a depiction of the character's promiscuous past as implied or explicit justification, and it must not serve as shock value. This includes gratuitous scenes depicting the actual sexual violence, which has become much too common and has very damaging real life impacts on Black women. Point D. Must be handled with care by those who are written as her helpers or supporters. There should be no regular or casual berating, belittling, or humiliation tactics. No unnecessarily harsh punishments for human mistakes or undesirable actions. Point E. Must have accurate and authentic experiences regarding skin tone and phenotype. There should be no stereotypical characteristics regarding skin tone. This includes depicting dark-skinned women as masculine, specifically in contrast to lighter-skinned women being depicted as hyperfeminine. There should be a conscious effort to include Black women with tight, kinky, coily hair textures and a wide variety of facial features. There is diversity in Blackness, so there should be a wide variety of phenotypes depicted in storytelling media. In the event of a biopic or nonfiction storytellers, actors must be of the accurate skin tone and phenotype as the subject, as these are elements that have crucial impact on their real life experiences. I get it. This is a different call to action. It is a lot to unpack, but y'all, this is critical. More often than not, storytellers fail to include Black women into their world building. And when they do, it's within the confines of harmful stereotypes that seem safe to stick to. Our stories are not often seen as marketable or relatable on the global scale. There is a common misconception that the human experience for Black women is so far removed from the human experiences of others. That is simply not true. Black women are human and have shared experiences that everyone can relate to. Black women are more than the discrimination we face, and it's time to start telling stories from that perspective. So let's really get into it. I will be curating a video series called Sexy, Sassy, and at Your Service: The History and Impact of Black Women's Stereotypes in Media. This series will include more detailed history and impact of each stereotype, backed by peer reviewed research and statistics. I will also provide more insight into the development, significance, and intended impact into each criterion of the Antoinette Test. This will include film and TV analyses. Subscribe to my Patreon at Take It From Trinity to access all of this and more. I can't wait to see what you create.